Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Intermediate Second Year webinar series of Telangana State Model Schools. In today's botany webinar session, we are in Unit 4, Molecular Biology, Chapter 10, Molecular Basis of Inheritance. In the previous session, Seema Madam, PGT Botany, TSMS Ramayanpet Medak, Madam has explained about DNA, its structure. In today's session, Madam will be going further to explain about RNA and related features. Good morning, Madam.
Good morning, Madam.
Please take over the session.
Yes, Madam. Thank you so much, Madam, for giving me this opportunity to tell our major topic, that is molecular biology. And the chapter is Chapter 10, Molecular Basis of Inheritance. And today we are dealing Part 2. So children, let us start the topic. First of all, let us revise what we have studied in our earlier class. So in the earlier class, we studied about the scientist who discovered the DNA, about the polynucleotide chain, packaging of DNA helix, and nothing but the nucleosomes, the search of genetic material, Meissner and Mendel, then the transforming principle is, and I have also discussed that Griffith's experiment is the very important experiment. This was the experiment which laid the foundation or the beginning to tell that, yes, DNA was the genetic material. And biochemical characterization of transforming the principle was done by three scientists, Avery, MacLeod, and McCarthy. These three scientists confirmed that yes, Griffith was correct, that DNA was the genetic material. These three scientists have proved it. Then the genetic material as DNA was again done by Hershey and Chase. We also discussed about the various properties of genetic material. Now children, let us discuss the next topics which we are going to deal today. Today we are going to deal mainly with our RNA world. Then we are going to discuss that replication of DNA is semi-conservative method. Then we also discussed about Michelson and Stahl's experiment. Then we'll discuss about the machinery and the enzymes, nothing but the replication fork, transcription, transcription unit and gene, the type of RNAs and the process of transcription in bacteria and eukaryotes. That is, we are going to discuss transcription in both prokaryotes as well as eukaryotes. Then we'll discuss about genetic code. So let us discuss about the DNA and the RNA. So what is DNA and RNA? Children, as you can see the image over here, that this image is the structure of DNA, whereas this is the structure of RNA. Now, what is the difference which you can find over here? Yes, the difference which we can find over here is, the major difference is thymine. In DNA, we have thymine, whereas in RNA, uracil is present. Now, what are the other structures which we are able to see? See, adenine is common for both DNA as well as RNA. Guanine is same for both DNA and RNA. Cytosine is same for both DNA and RNA. But when it comes to DNA, the nitrogen base present is thymine, whereas in RNA, uracil is present. Now, the RNA world. What is RNA world? During the time of the RNA world, proteins were not yet engaged in biochemical reactions. That means proteins were not known to the scientist. RNA carried out both the information, storage task of the genetic information, and the full range of catalytic roles necessary in very important, that is primitive self-replicating system. Actually, what we discussed was DNA will act as the storage, but previously, scientists thought that RNA was functioning both as the information storage and also it was performing the catalytic role. Later, RNA catalyzed the formation of DNA. Nothing but the DNA has evolved from the RNA. Now, RNA world. What is the first genetic material? So children, as we all know, DNA has evolved from the RNA after a very long time. The very first genetic material on earth was RNA. We know what is the full form of RNA? Ribose nucleic acid. There are different essential processes which are related to RNA. What are the kind of process? Many processes like the metabolic process, which are directly related to the metabolism, that is translation process. What's happening in translation? If we go a little bit back to central dogma, What happens over there? DNA will self-replicate and form RNA. RNA, that is nothing but transcription. RNA will undergo translation to form proteins. So these all processes are taking place. What are all those processes? Nothing but metabolism. So RNA is performing such important metabolisms. Only RNA can synthesize various proteins. So children, keep it in mind. We usually tell that proteins are the building blocks of our body. But from where are we getting those proteins? Means we are getting those proteins from the RNA, because RNA is synthesizing the proteins. Now RNA is forming proteins from translation. So RNA is very important. Now, you know what? There is a specific process which is called as splicing, which we'll see in the further classes. And in that process, splicing occurs in this translation only. We will discuss what is splicing in the further now in the coming class only. RNA is used as the genetic material as well as catalyst. Nothing but it will speed up the process. Catalyst is nothing but it will speed up the process. And what is the enzyme present in RNA? Nothing but ribozymes. So ribozymes is the enzyme which is present in the RNA. How DNA has evolved. So children, DNA has evolved from RNA. We all know that. And we should also tell that RNA, being a catalyst, was highly reactive and hence unstable. Children, we have discussed in our earlier classes that because RNA is having more oxygen, it is highly reactive. And because RNA is highly reactive, it is not stable. Whereas DNA, the name itself, deoxyribonucleic acid, that means oxygen is less. If oxygen is less, it is less reactive. And if it is less reactive, it is more stable. So DNA is a highly stable compound. Therefore, DNA is formed from RNA with chemical modifications. So DNA is made more stable. Now, DNA is a double-stranded double-stranded compound. We all know that. And it is having complementary strands. Let us know what are complementary strands. Let us know what is double strands and what are the structures. Now, replication. While proposing the double helical structure of DNA, Watson and Crick immediately proposed the scheme for replication of DNA. Actually, the structure of DNA was proposed by Watson and Crick, but they also proposed the scheme of replication. Because everybody will have the question, when you have discovered the structure, let us know the scheme for replication. So in that way, both Watson and Crick have proposed structure of DNA and scheme for replication of DNA. The scheme suggested that the two strands would separate and act as the template for the synthesis of new complementary strand. So children, you have come across two new words over here, template strand and complementary strand. In simple words, template means parental strand. Template means parental strand. Complementary strand means the strand which is formed on the template strand, nothing but the daughter strand. So template strand is the parent strand. Complementary strand is nothing but the daughter strand. After the completion of replication, each DNA molecule would have one parental and one newly synthesized strand. I will explain you this point by showing you the image. So this scheme is termed as semi-conservative DNA replication. So children, let us have one more point, that is, if the DNA is consisting of one parental strand and one newly synthesized strand, then that is nothing but semi-conservative DNA replication. Now let us know what is semi-conservative DNA replication. Children, this is semi-conservative mode of replication. If you see the image over here, these are the sugars, this is the phosphate, and these are the nitrogen bases. If you recall our first class, I have mentioned you all these to you. These are the nitrogen bases. They bond with each other using hydrogen bonds, and hydrogen bonds are very weak bonds. Okay, we discussed about all these in our previous class, and it is anti-parallel to each other. This is the general structure. Okay, but when the DNA will coil, the structure is like this. Okay, So when the DNA undergoes double helical structure, it is visible like this. Okay, children. Now, let us discuss what is semi-conservative. This is nothing but the structure of DNA. That is the double helical structure. Now, let us know how this replication process is going on. Now, just imagine this DNA helix, double helix is present over here. Nothing but we are considering that as the parental DNA. So this is the parental DNA. It is having two strands. It is having two strands. This is the parental DNA. Now this undergoes replication. So one strand, it divides into two. One strand goes towards this side. The other strand comes towards this side. As a result, you can see both pink strands on either sides. So this is called as the template strand. You can also call as the parent strand. Children, we discussed complementary strand. That is nothing but the daughter strand. So this parent strand is forming the daughter strand. Now here also the parent strand is forming the daughter strand. So in both the cells, you can find one parent strand, one daughter strand, one parent strand and one daughter strand. That means the DNA of the parent is conserved in both the daughters in a semi-conservative method. Semi means half. Semi means half. So the parental DNA is conserved in the half in both the daughter cells. Similarly, when you come to the second replication, this blue strand is given to this side. This pink strand is given to this side. That means both are the parental DNA strands. Now this synthesizes again another new complementary strand, nothing the daughter strand. As we know, daughter strand is blue in color. So over here, another daughter strand is formed. Here, daughter strand is formed. Even here, the same process repeats. That means from the parent, half of the DNA material is passed on to the daughter cells. That we are calling it as semi-conservative mode of replication. Now let us know what is the experimental proof of Michelson and Stahl's experiment. The semi-conservative DNA replication was first experimentally shown in E. coli in higher organisms such as plant and human cells. Matthew Michelson and Franklin Stahl in 1958 discovered this Michelson and Stahl's experiment. So let us know what's happening here. Children, these are the images of the scientists Michelson and Stahl. Matt Michelson and Frank Stahl designed the most beautiful experiment in biology. That is nothing but the experiment tests the DNA replication models. And they used bacteria grown in media of a heavy isotope of nitrogen. So children, you have to remember the term isotope of hydrogen because the entire experiment is based on this only. Okay. Now, let us know what is happening over here. First of all, let us know what the scientists have taken. These scientists have taken E. coli bacteria, then the ammonium chloride as the food material for the E. coli bacteria. So they made special, nitrogen substance. Actually, the nitrogen substance they used is NH4Cl, but the nitrogen which they used is heavy isotope of nitrogen. So we should tell it as N15. Actually, the normal nitrogen will be N14, but we have taken, that means the scientists have taken N15 type of isotope, nothing but heavy isotope of nitrogen. To separate heavy isotope from light nitrogen, centrifugation process, nothing but density gradient centrifugation process will take place. So we will discuss what is happening there. To perform this density gradient centrifugation, they use cesium chloride. We will discuss in this experiment now. E. coli. So let us know the process, what is going on. E. coli is grown in ammonium chloride, heavy isotope of ammonium chloride. It's grown in this medium for a few generations. So children, you first remember this blue color is heavy nitrogen, N15, whereas this red color is nothing but N14, the light nitrogen. Okay. So E. coli is grown first in this medium, that is heavy nitrogen medium. Now, what is happening in this heavy nitrogen medium? It's grown in this medium for few generations so that they feed and divide around a few generations. They found that all the DNA of the E. coli became embedded with the N15 isotope. So the E. coli was consisting of the DNA, but the DNA was made up of N15, nothing but heavy isotope of nitrogen. Now let us know further. So both, that is what you say, both strands of DNA have N15. Now you can see over here, this is grown in the heavy isotope. This is nothing but the E. coli with heavy isotope. They have performed ultracentrifugation. So when you see in the test tube, the heavy isotope, so that is why the the DNA is present at the base. Density gradient centrifugation means if the weight is heavy, it will settle at the bottom. So that is why it is having heavy nitrogen. So it has settled at the bottom, showing you that the DNA present in the E. coli bacteria is heavy isotope. Now they have allowed, what did they do the second step? In the second step, what did they do was, both strands of DNA, that is E. coli is shifted to the light nitrogen, that is N14. E. coli has been shifted to light nitrogen of N14, and all the bacteria have N15 strands because they have taken from this blue color and they have shifted to this N14. Now what is the E. coli bacteria? N15. But when they have shifted into N14, the bacteria will take which food? It will take N14 food only. So, and when the E. coli is dividing in the medium N14, it's getting the food material of N14, that is light nitrogen. Cell division occurs for every 20 minutes. So children, you can see here the sample after 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, they have observed that by ultra density centrifugation, that the material was in between. After 20 minutes, they have done ultracentrifugation of this substance. They found that the E. coli DNA material was in the middle. So the scientists confirmed that yes, half of the DNA material is N15, half of the DNA material is N14. Now, when this method was over, they kept this, E. coli in this medium only for some more time, maybe for another 20 minutes, that is totally about 40 minutes. So they observed that when they again performed this density centrifugation, after 40 minutes, they found the hybrid DNA was observed. That means totally 4 strands were formed. How? One strand was in the middle, another strand was on the upper side. That means the hybrid strand is in the middle, which is containing N14 and N15, and the strand which is on the upper side is light nitrogen. So this is N15. So after 40 minutes of presence in the NH4Cl of N14 nitrogen, the E. coli formed 4 types of DNAs. That is, 2 strands of DNA are consisting of hybrid DNA. That is, one strand is N14, one strand is N15. Here also it is a hybrid DNA, N14 and N15 strand. In between, if you see, it is red color. That is nothing but the N15 strands on N14 strands only. So you can tell that 2 strands are hybrid strands, whereas 2 strands are light strands, showing that semi-conservative mode of replication. So conclusion, this pattern could only have been observed if each DNA molecule contains a template strand from the parental DNA. Thus, DNA replication is semi-conservative. So briefly, once let me explain you children that in this part, the half of the genetic material is transformed into the daughter strands, DNA strands. So this is the image which is present in our textbooks. So let us quickly understand what's happening over here. So the DNA which is grown in the N15. So when you check it, it is at the base of the test tube, showing that this is heavy nitrogen, that is N15 nitrogen. When you grow it in the NH4Cl, that is in the N14 isotope, you get 2 types of strands. That is, one strand is of heavy isotope, one strand is of the light isotope. So you get hybrid variety. That is the reason the DNA is in the middle. But when you keep it for another 20 minutes, that is after 40 minutes, you find that 4 strands are formed where 2 strands are hybrid strands, whereas the 2 strands are the light strands. That is why the test tube, you can see in the middle, you have the hybrid strand, and in the beginning of the test tube, you have the light strand, showing the semi-conservative mode of replication. Now the machinery and the enzymes. So children, if you see this image, this is the image of the chromosome, and in this image you can see that the DNA is present on the chromosome. When you separate the DNA and when you observe the ultra microscopic view, this is the coiled structure of the DNA, and you can see over here that this is the helicase enzyme which keeps on unwinding the DNA. This is the binded or the winded structure or the coiled structure of the DNA. Because of the helicase enzyme, the DNA gets uncoiled. So remember children, the DNA will get uncoiled because of which enzyme? Helicase enzyme. And in this machinery, we are going to discuss about replication fork. So in replication fork, we have to discuss mainly about 4 types of enzymes. What are the 4 types of enzymes which need to discuss? We need to discuss about, that is the RNA primase. We need to discuss about DNA ligase. We need to discuss about DNA polymerase. This is again this polymerase. We have to discuss about all these things. So let us know what is happening over here. So as you can see over here, children, you can find there are 2 types of strands, that is this lagging strand, leading strand. How this lagging strand and leading strand are formed? Because of the enzyme helicase which we have seen over here. This helicase enzyme will unwind the DNA. And what is this helicase enzyme doing? It is breaking, this helicase enzyme is breaking the nitrogen bonds. You can see these colored substances are the nitrogen bonds. These are again separated. Who is doing this separation? Helicase enzyme. So you will say that helicase enzyme will separate the nitrogen bonds which are present in the DNA. And what is happening? For this process, helicase enzyme will need some ATP. Now children, when you see this image, you can see lagging strand and the leading strand. On the lagging strand, you have fragments. These fragments are called as Okazaki fragments, and on the leading strand, you have one continuous product which we call it as the leading product. Now for this process, we need a primer. We need a RNA primer. Now you can see this is nothing but the replication fork. The replication process will continue from this way, that is 3' to 5' end. Fork containing helicase and topoisomerase. Children, let us know what is this helicase and topoisomerase. Helicase is the enzyme which will unwind the DNA. Topoisomerase is the enzyme which will help in controlling the tension created while unwinding the DNA. So when the DNA is getting unwinded, some sort of tension is created. So to control that tension, topoisomerase is present. So there is a link between helicase and topoisomerase. Helicase is unwinding the DNA. Topoisomerase is controlling the tension created by the helicase enzyme. Now this is the single strand. Yes, you have to remember the single stranded binding protein. So children, the single stranded binding protein, what will this binding protein do? Means the single stranded binding protein will help in the stabilizing the single stranded template so that it will not coil back. So it will stop recoiling of the DNA segment. That is what we need, this single stranded binding protein. Now children, this is the image which is present in our textbook. So for this, the explanation which we need to give is, as the function of the DNA polymerase is to add DNA bases so that DNA synthesis will take place. The DNA polymerase will add DNA bases and synthesis of DNA will take place. For synthesis of DNA, primer is needed. For synthesis of DNA, primer is needed. So children, let us briefly know what is this replication fork. So in replication fork, we have 2 types of strands. That is the leading strand and the lagging strand. This leading strand, what is happening on the leading strand? DNA synthesis will occur due to polymerase 3. And firstly, RNA primase will add RNA primer. And as a result, this DNA synthesis will take place. And in the lagging strand, Okazaki fragments are present. And these are formed by DNA polymerase. These Okazaki fragments are joined together with DNA ligase. Now children, RNA primer is removed. Now this process is continuing. When this process will stop, whenever there is a terminator, this replication fork will stop. And when this replication fork formation is getting stopped, what will happen? RNA primer will be removed, and as a result, the gap formed will be filled by the DNA polymerase. That is, DNA ligase helps in joining. DNA polymerase will create the gap, whereas DNA ligase will join it, because DNA ligase is called as the joining enzyme, or it will fill the gap. That is ligase. Okay. Now next one is transcription. So children, let us know quickly what is transcription. This is the process of transcription. That is, it will copy the genetic material information from one strand of the DNA to into the RNA. This is known as transcription. Here the principle of complementarity is maintained, except that adenosine will always combine with uracil. Adenosine will always combine with uracil. Actually, in DNA, adenosine will combine with thymine, but when it is RNA, adenosine will combine with uracil. In the process of replication, that is in DNA replication, what happens? That is, the total DNA of an organism will get replicated. But in RNA, only a segment of the DNA will get replicated. So that is one point which you have to remember. Children, this is the transcription unit which is present in our syllabus, as this is the image similarly which is present in our textbook also. So what are the parts? That is the promoter, the structural gene, and the terminator gene. So the promoter, the structural, and the terminator, what is that? We'll just quickly go through it. That is promoter, terminator, structural gene. Structural gene is the area that transcribes most of the transcription will take place. The point where the process of transcription will start is the promoter region. The point where the process of transcription will stop is the termination region. And in the structural gene, we have two strands, template strand and the coding strand. Coding strand has the name as coding strand, but it does not code for any element. But the scientist thought that it was a coding strand, but later on they told that no, this is not the coding strand which is coding, but actually this non-coding strand. So what did the scientists do was, they removed the name as non-coding strand and gave the name as template strand. So children, remember, any reaction taking place on the strand, that strand is called as template strand. So this is the one thing which you have to remember. Now, I have to tell you one major thing over here is that the 5' to 3' end is the coding strand, but they do not code for anything. Now, children, you have to remember the technical explanation of promoter and terminator. If they ask you in competitive exams, where is the promoter located? So you must tell that promoter is located at the 5' end, that is 5' end of the structural gene with reference to the polarity of the coding strand. So you will tell, where is the promoter located? The promoter is located at the 5' upstream of the structural gene. Where is the terminator located? Terminator is located at the 3' end downstream of the coding strand. So promoter is upstream of the coding strand, whereas terminator is the downstream of the coding strand. Now let us know the transcription unit and gene. So let us see, children, we know what is the gene. This is DNA, and a segment of DNA is called as gene. If you remember our previous class, nucleosomes, these are the nucleosomes which you can understand. That is the dimer, and this DNA strand is coiled around the dimer. Okay, children, so this is the structure of this nucleosome. And DNA, a single segment of DNA is nothing but the gene. So just DNA is segment of the DNA that carries the code of a particular protein. Current definition, what is DNA? Gene, an information containing segment of DNA that codes for the production of a molecule of RNA. So nothing but the gene will help in the production of the molecule of RNA. Nothing but indirectly it is helping in the synthesis of proteins. Next. So in this gene also, you have to be aware of three words: cistron, monocistron, and polycistron. Genes as a unit of transcription are cistron. The part of the DNA specifying a single polypeptide chain is cistron. And in this cistron, we have 1000 nucleotide pairs. And in cistron, two types of cistrons are present. That is monocistronic and polycistronic. First one is polycistronic. Nothing but you have multiple translation sites. This cistron will help in the translation process. This is polycistronic. When it is monocistronic, only one cistron will present on the mRNA strand. Now, exons and introns are another major parts which you have to remember. Exon, intron. When you remove the intron, this process is called as RNA splicing, as I told you in the first slide itself. So when we are removing the introns, what are left out? Exons are left out. So which is nothing but the mature mRNA. Children, you can have a small mnemonics over here. Exons are expressed. Introns are in the trash. That means we are removing the trash, removing into the trash, because exons are useful to us, whereas introns are not useful. So that is the small mnemonics which you can remember over here. Transcription in bacteria, nothing but the prokaryotes. So what is transcription? So children, transcription is nothing but formation of the RNA from the DNA. So copying of the RNA from the DNA is known as transcription. For the transcription, the enzyme required is DNA dependent RNA polymerase. So for this transcription process, what do we need? DNA dependent RNA polymerase. So this process is different in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So we'll discuss about both. As if now we are discussing about prokaryotes. So children, let us know what is happening. This is our DNA strand, children, and we can see two polynucleotide strands as it is a double helical structure. And as we discussed in the transcriptional unit, first we have the promoter region, and at the end we have the terminator region. Between promoter and the terminator, we have the structural gene. Major process of transcription will take place in this structural gene only. Now, what is happening? The name of the enzyme which facilitates the transcription is, I told you, DNA dependent RNA polymerase, and the enzyme which utilizes this DNA dependent RNA polymerase will utilize what? It will utilize nucleoside triphosphate. So this DNA dependent RNA polymerase will utilize nucleoside triphosphate. The RNA polymerase consists of the sigma factor. This sigma factor, what is it? The sigma factor initiates the transcription. So nothing but the process of initiation, first step. So sigma factor initiates the transcription. It identifies and enters the promoter region. So this is the promoter. The oval shape is promoter. Inside the promoter, sigma factor is present. Sigma factor will help in the entry of the polymerase into the DNA strand. Okay. Now, this is nothing but we also call it as transcription start site. Finally, sigma factor will identify this promoter region and it will start the initiation process. But after some time, the sigma factor will, get eliminated or it will disappear. So this is the first step. Now, second step is nothing but after initiation, what is happening? After initiation, RNA polymerase enters into the DNA segment. That is the double helical structure of the DNA. It cuts the DNA hydrogen bonds. As you can see, these hydrogen bonds are joined. After the entry of the polymerase, the hydrogen bonds are broken. So it cuts the hydrogen bonds which are bind with polynucleotide strands, and that is RNA polymerase enzyme is breaking. The RNA polymerase enzyme present in the double stranded structure as a result of hydrogen bonds are broken down, and here there is no sigma factor. As I told you, sigma factor will disappear, so there is no sigma factor. Now the RNA polymerase moves towards the 3' end, and as I told you children, over here there is the terminator region. So there is the terminator region, and we should also know that the strand which runs from 3' to 5' is nothing but the template strand. Now, after this, entry of this terminator, the process of transcription will stop over here. And during this part, a factor which is called as Rho factor will help in the termination of this transcription process. So we are calling it as transcription. And after this transcription, the process will get stopped. So who is helping in the starting of the transcription process? Yes, sigma factor is helping in the transfer of the process. Whereas who is helping in the stopping of the process? So RNA polymerase Rho factor is helping in stopping the process. Now let us know what is happening over here. So children, when you see over here, that is RNA polymerase recognizes the promoter and promoter base sequence that starts off the gene. This is the transcription process, how this is taking place. So first one in transcription is initiation. Then the next one is what you say, elongation, and next is termination. So children, with this, we are completing our transcription in prokaryotes. Now, transcription in eukaryotes. So children, in eukaryotes, a little bit different process takes place. So what is happening transcription in eukaryotes is, in transcription in eukaryotes, as you can see, various types of enzymes are involved. What are the various types of enzymes involved? The various types of enzymes involved are polymerase 1, then polymerase 2, then polymerase 3. You have to mainly remember main three things is polymerase 1 is the precursor of rRNA, polymerase 2 is the precursor of hnRNA, polymerase 3 is the precursor of tRNA. First keep that in mind children. Polymerase 1 is the precursor of what you say rRNA, polymerase 2 is the precursor of hnRNA, polymerase 3 is the precursor of tRNA. And you should also know these Swedberg units, that is rRNA precursor has mature RNA of 28 Swedberg units, 18 Swedberg units and 5.8 Swedberg units. This is enough. hnRNA is nothing but it is having mature RNA. snRNA, snRNAs. So first of all, in the transcription of eukaryotes, mainly three enzymes, that is three RNA polymerases are present. RNA polymerase 1, RNA polymerase 2, RNA polymerase 3. RNA polymerase 1 will code for RNA, rRNA. Polymerase 2 will code for hnRNA. Polymerase 3 will code for tRNAs. Now, what is the overall process? The overall process which takes place is RNA capping will happen at the 5' end of the RNA. Usually it adds methyl guanosine triphosphate. So children, don't panic, because again I will go back to the explanation of our textbook image. This is only so that you have an idea that what are the steps in the transcription in eukaryotes. So we have RNA capping, we have splicing of introns, we have polyadenylation. So let us know what is exactly happening over here. So in this process, what is happening is, first time, we'll go back to this. Yes, this is the image of transcription in eukaryotes. So in transcription in eukaryotes, what is taking place? So over here you can see that this is the double-stranded DNA, and in this double-stranded DNA, one second. Yes, this is the double-stranded DNA, and here RNA polymerase, as usual, will initiate the process of transcription. RNA will initiate the process of transcription, and in this process, what is happening, that the second, that is the process will take place, the RNA polymerase will enter into the DNA segment, whereas the second step is elongation. The third step is termination. It means wherever termination region is there, the process will get terminated. And the hnRNA, that is the segment which is formed over here, this we are calling it as the hnRNA. And children, if you observe that wherever it means wherever terminator region is there, the process will be terminated and hnRNA is released. So this process will continue till the termination point is released. So keep it in mind that the DNA process will occur as usual. RNA polymerase will reach to the terminator region. Once the polymerase will reach to the terminator region, the hnRNA will get released. Okay. So now what is happening at this end, that is towards the 5' end. Towards the 5' end, there will be adding of the guanosine triphosphate. So children, you can see over here, that is the guanosine triphosphate, methylated guanosine triphosphate, MGPP. So this is methylated guanosine triphosphate. So adding of this methylated guanosine triphosphate at the 5' end of HN DNA, we are calling it as capping. We are calling it as capping. Now, after this capping process, what is happening? This DNA, that is the mRNA, will get separated from this DNA segment. After the separation of this mRNA from the DNA segment, you can see this is the separated mRNA segment. Let us know what is happening to this DNA segment. It will get back to its normal stage of replication. That is, these nitrogen bases which were broken will again get joined. Okay, so this DNA segment issue is over. Let us know what is happening to this, what you say, mRNA which is released out. So children, this mRNA which is released out is nothing but HNRNA. We are calling it as HNRNA. So here the template strand which helps in the formation of RNA, RNA forming, that is, this part is nothing but HNRNA. And this HNRNA, when you observe, you can see light yellow color part and light pinkish region, yellow color part and pinkish region. So when you see the strand HN, heteronucleus RNA, so over here exons and introns are present. Now over here a major step called as RNA splicing will take place. A major step which is called as RNA splicing will take place. Now what is that RNA splicing? RNA splicing is nothing but removal of the introns. Removal of the introns. Just we will go back to another slide which we have discussed till now. That is, if you come over here, I told you we are eliminating the introns. So that means the introns are removed. So over here we are doing that same process. Nothing but removing the introns into the trash bin. So these introns are removed. Only exons are present. So how is that we are removing? By the process of RNA splicing. After that, we will do adenylation process. We will do adenylation process at poly A tail. As a result, we have 3 steps. That is capping, then adenylation and splicing. After these 3 steps, we will get the mRNA during the process of the transcription in eukaryotes. Children, you have to remember one point, that is the mRNA which is come from the DNA, that mRNA or that RNA is called as nascent RNA. That means the RNA which is very, very simple. So we are calling it as nascent RNA. So once again, we'll just go through the steps in a simple way. This is the double-stranded structure of the DNA. And in this DNA, the same process occurs, that is RNA polymerase enters at the promoter site. Elongation process will take place. During the process of elongation, the mRNA strand which is released out will have 2 type of things, that is exons and introns. When the RNA polymerase will reach the termination site, then the process of transcription will stop. As a result, the polymerase will get removed from the DNA strand. The DNA strand will go back to its normal, double helical structure. The mRNA or the RNA strand which is released out is called as the nascent RNA. And on this nascent RNA, we do capping. That is, we add methylated guanosine triphosphate, and we do polyadenylation by adding adenylation at the poly A tail. After the addition of this guanosine triphosphate and polyadenylation, we perform the process of RNA splicing. RNA splicing is nothing but removal of the introns. When the introns are removed, only the exons are present which contain the proteins. Now when you see after the 3 steps, that is capping, adenylation and splicing, we find the newly formed mRNA strand. That is nothing but the messenger RNA. So the process of transcription in eukaryotes, what are all the things needed? Polymerase 1, polymerase 2 and polymerase 3. Now let us know what is genetic code. So children, genetic code is the genetic information carried by the living cell, and the term given was who discovered this genetic code was George Gamow. So you have to remember the scientist George Gamow. The codon, it is a set of 3 nitrogenous bases in mRNA. So what do you mean by a codon? A set of 3 nitrogenous bases is mRNA, is nothing but a codon, which provide genetic information for amino acid during the synthesis of polypeptide chain. And these codons are common for both humans, that is highly evolved humans, very basic primitive organisms like bacteria. These are, everybody have codons, and these codons are same for everybody. So let us know that genetic code is the genetic information carried by the living cell, and who discovered this genetic code means George Gamow discovered the genetic code. These are the scientists who worked for the genetic code. That is, the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine was in the year 1968. So if you see the 3 scientists, Robert W. Hawley and Hargobind Khorana and Marshall W. Nirenberg, these 3 scientists were the persons who worked hard for the genetic code. So for their interpretation of the genetic code, it is the function and its function in protein synthesis, they received Nobel Prize. These are the scientists who work for the genetic code, that is Robert Hawley, Hargobind Khorana and Marshall Nirenberg. So these 3 scientists' rigorous work on genetic code had brought them the Nobel Prize in the year 1968. So among these 3 scientists, we need to discuss a little bit in detail about Hargobind Khorana because he is of Indian origin. Nobel laureate, molecular biologist and scientist Hargobind Khorana was born on January 9, 1922, and he was born in a village which was undivided India at the time. Khoranas was the only literate family of the 100 households there, and he was the first scientist of chemically synthesized oligonucleotides. Khorana won the Nobel Prize in Physiology along with Robert Hawley and Marshall Nirenberg. As we have seen the earlier image of all the 3 scientists, that is Hawley, Nirenberg and Hargobind Khorana. Oligonucleotides are short DNA and RNA molecules. These are artificially created ones, are now commonly used to research genetic engineering diseases and genetic engineering and cloning. So we have to remember Hargobind Khorana because he is our Indian born scientist. Now let us know this is genetic code. Let us know how we can make this chart, because usually when you see this image in the textbook, you get scared like what are all these alphabets. So children, let us just discuss about this chart in detail. U, C, A, G. Now when the word letter U means we are talking about RNA, because uracil is always present in RNA only. So uracil, cytosine, adenine and guanine. Children, don't get worried about this phenine, then this leucine, this all valine. Don't get worried about all this. You can learn them later on. But let us know how we can make this table. So you have to make 3 columns first. The first column, you have to write each and every letter U, C, A, G. Similarly, you have to do it here near the horizontal side also, U, C, A, G. Then towards this side, you will write in one box, you will write all the 4, U, C, A, G. Even in the next box, the same, U, C, A, G. You will follow this for the next 2 boxes also. Now let us know how is that we are forming this triplet codon. So we are forming this triplet codon, that is, you take the first letter U from this side, then you take the first letter from this U, you take the U from this side. So uracil, uracil and uracil. Then you take U from this column, U from here, then the second letter is C. So U, U, C. So the next will be U, U, A. The next will be U, U, G. So in this way, you're going to fill the entire table. Now let us do another example. For example, if you're taking this proline, how is that you're going to do this? You're going to take C from here, then C from here, and U from here. C, C, U. How you'll write the next one? because the first two letters will always be the same. C, 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 C. Here the second letter is C. So C, C, C. Then C, C, A. So C, C, A. The next will be C, C and G. C, C and G. So in this way, you can fill this genetic code table in a very easy way without any stress. Salient features of genetic code. So children, nothing but you can tell the properties of genetic code. As we have discussed till now, how are these all present? U, U, U. That means these are in the form of triplet codons. These are in the form of triplet codons. So always remember that each genetic code is composed of nucleotide of triplets. So this is the genetic code and this is in the form of triplets. This is the genetic code and this is in the form of triplets. Next, the genetic code is non-overlapping. Each nucleotide in mRNA belongs to just one codon. So let us know what do you mean by non-overlapping. Children, if you are writing all these three, U, 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 C, U, without any break, always the genetic code will code for three codons only. U, U, U. Never it will code for U, U, U. The next codon will never be U, U, U or U, U, C. No, always the coding will be in the form of triplet codons and they will never overlap with each other. So no overlapping is observed. First one is they are in the form of triplet codons. Second one is no overlapping. Next, the genetic code is degeneracy. All but two of the amino acids are specified by more than one codon. So they are degenerate, that is they specify more than one codon. And the genetic code contains start and stop codons. Actually, you have totally 64 codons. Out of them, 61 are the coding codons. Remaining 3 are nothing but the nonsense codons. In them, we have the start and the stop codons. And the genetic code is nearly universal. What do you mean by universal? Nothing but these codons only, that is these genetic codes only are used for the primitive form of bacteria, whereas the highly evolved human beings like us, we all of us have the same genetic code. So that is why the last point is nothing but the genetic code is nearly universal. And children, let us go through the process of transcription in prokaryotes once again. So let us know the process of transcription in prokaryotes once again. So this is very important through the exam point of view. So what is happening over here? That is in transcription of prokaryotes, that is bacteria. What is transcription? Transcription is nothing but formation of RNA from DNA. This is the DNA strand, and on this DNA strand, RNA will form. How this process will take place? Transcription is nothing but formation of RNA from DNA, but popping of the RNA from DNA is also known as transcription. Now, the major thing which you have to remember over here is what is the enzyme which we need over here? That is DNA dependent RNA polymerase. So we call it as DNA dependent RNA polymerase. The process is different in both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Now we are discussing this process in prokaryotes. Okay, so this is our DNA and we see 2 polynucleotide strands and it is double helical structure. It is double helical structure. And we also discussed in the transcription unit that it has 2 points, that is the promoter point and the terminator point. The first we have the promoter site, and on the promoter region, what is happening? That is at the other end, that is what is happening over there, that the process of transcription will start. So between the promoter and the terminator region, we are having the structural gene. So children, keep it in mind, we are having the promoter region, we are having the terminator region. In between the promoter and the terminator region, we have the structural gene. The name of the enzyme which will facilitate the process of transcription is DNA dependent RNA polymerase. So with this, majorly you remember 3 points, that is the promoter site, the terminator site, the structural gene, and what enzyme we are using means we are using DNA dependent RNA polymerase. Now, this enzyme utilizes nucleoside triphosphate as the substrate. This DNA polymerase enzyme, it needs one substrate to continue the process. So what is happening over here? It is using nucleoside triphosphate to continue the process. The process will start. So RNA polymerase consists of the sigma factor. What is the sigma factor doing? It will help in the RNA polymerase to enter into the DNA strand. Nothing but it should enter. It is like a passport to enter into the DNA strand. So RNA polymerase has entered into the DNA strand. Sigma factor, nothing but it will help in initiating the transcription process. It identifies and enters the promoter region. We should know that this is nothing but transcription start site. Finally, sigma factor enters into the DNA strand, and the promoter will and the process will take place. So this is the significance of the sigma factor. So it is the first step of initiation. After initiation, what happens? After initiation, the process of elongation will take place. What will happen? The process of elongation will take place. And in the process of elongation, what is happening? In the process of elongation, what is happening? It is nothing but the DNA strand will get broken down. The hydrogen bonds present in the DNA strand will get broken. How? This RNA polymerase is breaking the hydrogen bonds. Now, when this process breaking is taking place, is the sigma factor present over there? No. If you see, the sigma factor is present outside the image. So sigma factor is not there over this part. So this polymerase is moving towards the 3' end. This process will continue till the terminator region is reached. And excuse me. So this process will continue till the terminator region is reached. And when the polymerase will reach the termination site, the process will stop, because termination meaning itself means stop. Now the RNA polymerase will stop its function. The RNA will get released out from the DNA strand, and during the process of termination, you should remember the rho factor. It will help in the stopping of the process, that is termination of the process. So children, when you're talking about this transcription in a bacteria, you need to remember mainly the promoter site, the terminator site, the the sigma, that is the segments, that is coding this part. And during this promoter site, sigma factor is very important, and during this terminator site, rho factor is very important. And we have 3 steps here: initiation, elongation, and termination. Next, mainly we need to talk about is our transcription in eukaryotes. Now, transcription in eukaryotes, what is happening in transcription? RNA polymerase is taking the as usual process, that is, it's taking the process as usual, that is transcription process is taking place, whereas the second step elongation, third step is termination. It means wherever the terminator it is reaching, the process will get terminated, and the heterogeneous nuclear RNA, nothing but the HN RNA is released, and this HN RNA contain 5' end and 3' end, and this undergoes a processing. What is the processing? Towards the 5' end, there will be adding guanosine triphosphate, and this process is called as capping. And towards the 3' end, we will be adding adenylate residues. We are calling it as tailing. So we have 2 processes, that is capping, and we have tailing. So we have to remember 2 processes, that is capping and tailing. Now, here the template strand, that is help in the formation of RNA. RNA is forming the template strand. The newly formed RNA shows 5' to 3' end. And in this process is going on, the process, it reaches terminator site, then terminator region will stop the termination process. The enzyme will come out, that is this HN RNA has 2 regions, exons and introns. These exons and introns, the introns will be removed. So the removal of these introns is nothing but splicing. That you have to remember. So we have capping, we have tailing, and we have splicing. These are the 3 steps which we have to discuss in transcription in eukaryotes. So children, please keep this process, that is transcription in prokaryotes and eukaryotes, are the important steps. Once again, you see here the overall process. RNA capping happens when 5' end of the RNA adds methyl guanosine triphosphate, and RNA polymerase makes the 5' end primary transcript. Splicing of introns removes the intervening sequence in RNA, nothing but we are removing the introns. Polyadenylation, we are adding the polyadenyl group to the 3' end. That is nothing but tailing also. We have discussed about the genetic code, how the genetic code table will be formed. We have discussed the salient features. Now let us know what we have learned in this class. Today we have discussed about RNA world, how the DNA has formed from RNA. That is, RNA was the first formed genetic material, but due to chemical modifications, from RNA, DNA has evolved. So we tell RNA is an unstable compound, whereas DNA is a highly stable structure. Then we also discussed about replication semi-conservative method, how the parental genetic material is transferred to the daughter cells in the halfway. That is, half of the genetic material is transferred to each daughter cells, and the daughter cell will synthesize another new strand of itself. That is the complementary strand. Michelson and Stahl's experiment, that is how we have cultured the E. coli bacteria in heavy isotope of nitrogen and in light nitrogen, that is NH4Cl. Then the machinery and the enzymes of the replication fork, how a replication fork is formed. Then we discussed about transcription, what is transcription and transcription unit. We have discussed about gene also, and the types of RNA and the process of transcription. That is, we have RNA polymerase 1, RNA polymerase 2, and RNA polymerase 3, and the process of transcription in bacteria and eukaryotes. When it is bacteria, we have initiation, termination, and elongation. When it is eukaryotes, we have capping, tailing, and splicing. This is eukaryotes. We also discussed about genetic code. That is nothing but the segment of the DNA is the genetic code, and how a triplet codon is formed, how the codes are not overlapping each other. We talked about the salient features of genetic code also. So children, this is the major topics which we have discussed today, and let us discuss about some homework questions. These are the questions which are present in your textbook. That is, back of the lesson, you have these questions. I have mentioned the marks also for you. So what are the components of transcription unit? Difference between introns and exons, capping and tailing. What is meant by capping and tailing? What is the difference between template strand and coding strand in DNA molecule, and the differences between DNA and RNA? If you observe, all the above 5 questions are of 2-mark questions. And children, 2-mark questions, you must read everything from the textbooks because you cannot have choice from them. So you have to read all the 2-mark questions are important. If you refer the textbook, the explanation is very beautiful. Then discuss the significance of heavy isotope of nitrogen in Michelson and Stahl's experiment. We have discussed the Michelson and Stahl's experiment, that is about the heavy isotope nitrogen. So that answer is for 4-mark questions. And please write these answers to the concerned questions, show it to your concerned botany teachers, and try to correct them by reading your textbook. In the next class, we will discuss about more important topics. Thank you. Thank you, children.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for the detailed explanation. Really, it was a scientific orientation for me also regarding RNA, its structure, the intricacies involved. Children, please do revisit this session. Prepare your own notes. Any clarifications, you can pause, you can watch once again and make your own notes. So share it with your friends also, so that everyone will get benefited. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much, madam.